Good morning, everyone. This is the weekly meeting of the Tacoma-Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness. If that's not what you think you're attending, you might be in the wrong Zoom. But I'm glad to see everyone. We have a lot of early attendees this morning, so that's fantastic. And we have a lot to talk about today. So let me hand things off to Rosemary to get us started with today's meeting. Rosemary?
Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm holding my breath, as probably we all are, as the devastating events unfold in Ukraine. And at the same time, I read in that a local service provider is providing gas cards for an unhoused worker who's just found a job but needs a way to get there. And then I learned about the nomination of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the U.S. Supreme Court. Notice of these events appeared next to each other in my email, at least next to each other as far as I can say that. They're in the maw. But getting ready to welcome everyone this morning, I was reminded of a line from the poem of Walt Whitman's Song of Myself, where he says, "Every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you." That connection that of all of us to one another seems important to make today. Many of us may not know enough about the conflict in Ukraine to have a clear opinion, but we do know that there are already and will be more devastating effects to life in Ukraine, and even minimal effects initially to life here, even if it's about the higher cost of that gas card. So for the nomination of the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, we need to balance the promise of the nomination with the resistance that's already emerged to creating a broader connection that we all have to one another. We are all connected, and this is simply true. As the atoms that swirl about us from centuries of living humans and other creatures let us know, there is no isolated self when it comes to atoms. So yes, I started today holding my breath about Ukraine, and as we heard from Verna a couple of weeks back, that's not such a great way to stay resilient in challenging times. If we're going to be able to carry on, putting one foot ahead of the other, taking care of one another, and changing things one breath at a time, it's good to pay attention to our breathing. So I invite us to start today just with a brief attention to our breath. Breathe in deeply and then breathe out. Do that a few times, and then I'll do a little bit more. So welcome everyone to our meeting in the context of the world and connected to one another. For those of you who are new, just to remind you of the way we do our meetings, we ask people who want to be recognized to use the raised hand function in the chat, in the bar you see at the bottom of our screen. And if you can't, do wave your hand and someone will probably help Rob to recognize you. Also, limit distractions by turning off our videos when we're not speaking, and use the chat for sharing information about events that are coming up or questions you have, especially if you're a new person and would like to know something but are not sure about interrupting whatever the flow of the group is. It's a good place to network, and it's not disrespectful to do. And with regard to our community norms, pay attention to how we come across, take responsibility for our actions, be sure to share things when we want to, and take time to listen so we're not taking up too much space. And with that, I'd like to welcome anyone who's new or returning after some time away. If you could just raise your hand, I'll try to recognize you and let you just say who you are, and if you're connected to a group, to let us know what that group is. Megan, or Mayan, I'm sorry. Megan, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm with Pierce County Elections, and I specialize in voter outreach. And I just wanted to hop in here today and at some point share just a brochure that kind of helps go over people who are lacking a permanent address and how they can get registered and how they can get access to a ballot. We just ordered those, and I plan to distribute them to the Tacoma Rescue Mission, and they had agreed to disperse them throughout the county. So just at some point today, I can just go over that briefly with you guys.
Thanks, Megan. Welcome. So I realize I won't be able to see everybody, so I'd say just unmute yourself if you're new and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Calvin Kennan from CLR, Comprehensive Life Resources, the supervisor for homeless outreach. It's been a while since I had the opportunity to come to the coalition and join it, but I just wanted to kind of get re-engaged. And if you guys wanted any updates at any point in time during this, so the locations that we've been conducting outreach on, feel free to let us know or let me know. And just glad to be back.
Well, welcome back, Calvin, and we look forward to hearing you in the next section of the meeting. That's when we do talk about such things. So we'll look forward to hearing your updates.
Well, thank you.
Hi, I'm Tori Forsman, and I'm a former school teacher for White River School District, and I'm currently working part-time for the city of Puyallup as a housing case manager. And there's a trailer park community, mobile home community that is going to be displaced as of October 1st. And so I'm just here to listen and learn, and I'm glad to be here.
Welcome, Tori, and I've heard about your passion for being with people who are unhoused. So congratulations on that appointment, and I look forward to having you work with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for welcome.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Emily Reed with the Salvation Army. I am the new caseworker for the Jarvie Memorial Family Lodge shelter. So I'm just here to learn what's going on and just connect with people so we can get these people the best support that they need right now.
Welcome, Emily, and the Salvation Army's been a great supporter of the coalition, so it's nice to be connected with you.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm with Helping Hand House in Puyallup. I used to be with the coalition a while back ago when it was at the Salvation Army in Tacoma. And so I'm just excited to be back with you guys on Zoom now and seeing all these familiar faces. Hi, Teresa. But yeah, I work with Helping Hand House. I manage two programs, the permanent supportive housing and also the emergency shelter with Open Heart Ministries.
Well, welcome back, Heather. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ivy, and I also work with Heather at Helping Hand House. I work on the rapid rehousing side of things, and this is my first time joining the coalition. I'm just here to learn and absorb and grow a little bit, understand what you folks are all about, and contribute where I can. I'm actually heading out of town, and so you won't see me on video or anything like that. I may lose reception at some point, so I apologize. But it's great to be here.
Well,
Thank you for
Ivy,
having me.
welcome very much. And as your traveling self, whatever, we look forward to working with you as you continue in this position. So thank you for coming.
Good morning to you all. Thank you.
All right. Well, Rob, I think we can carry on. Thank you all for introducing yourselves, and we look forward to working with you as much as possible.
Thank you, Rosemary, and thank you everyone for being here this morning. So the first item on our agenda is our standing conversation that we have every week around what's happening this week on the streets. Calvin, it would be great to have you weigh in this section, but you can take that drink of coffee first. And again, we know it's been a cold week. We know that the county's been convening severe weather calls daily to try to coordinate to some extent the outreach to folks who are out on the streets this week. And so we would love to hear what people are seeing, what needs they can identify, and we've carved out a longer portion of today's meeting than usual to continue that conversation. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I see Monique has her hand up.
So happy you saw my hand. I was like, that little dark hand, I don't know if you can see it or not.
I got it.
All right, awesome. So listen, I just wanted to give a little update. You know what? We talked about opening this encampment in November. Here we are coming up into March and we're not open yet. However, the issue is with supply chain. So the city is having a hard time getting all the supplies that we need here to be able to open. Right now, there's a hold on the fencing. So we have the fencing laying at the site, but there are no, I guess it's the foundation pole. I don't know what you call that, but the pole that needs to be permanently cemented in. So we're waiting for that. And then they say that we're opening on the 7th of March. I say that's impossible. I say that's impossible, Rob, don't clap yet. The reason I say that is because even when we get access to the site, we've got a lot of prepping to do. We've got platforms to build for the ice fishing shelters and shacks to put up and feeding tent to put up. So we're going to do our best once we get access to the site, but more to come on that. I will keep you posted every Friday as I learn more. We also got a great connection yesterday with Costco, and I think that they may be looking for more folks. So what they do is on Fridays, the food that has been left, they give it to nonprofits. And then they also will give some of their returns and stuff. So if you're 501c3, you might want to check into them and see if there's something that you can get. Hopefully that doesn't kill me, but you know, I like to share the wealth. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Monique, and good news that you're getting closer to being able to open. So, and again, for folks who aren't aware, that site is at East 82nd and Pacific, or is that South 82nd Pacific?
It's at South 82nd and Pacific. Yeah. It's 8208 Pacific Avenue.
Yeah, and again, just briefly, how many sites or spaces will be accommodated there?
There will be 25 spaces with enough room to accommodate 30, just in case someone comes as a couple. And I may even do a couple of the tents larger for those who come as a couple. So there might be like 2 tents that are bigger than the regular 10 by 10.
Got it. Thank you, Monique.
You're welcome.
I see Teresa has her hand up.
This is actually 2 questions for Monique. One is the one that Garrett posted in the chat. He said, what's the name of your shelter?
Yes, I can respond to that. The name of the shelter is called Fob Hope's Veterans Village. We have a couple of big signs to put out there to show that it's a Veterans Village. However, don't let that lead you astray. If we have openings and we can't fill them with veterans, we will take anyone else. So if you have someone, just contact us. We have a list right now of people who are waiting to get in. But if we can't fill that with 25 veterans, we definitely will take others. So just reach out to me if you have somebody that you want to get placed, but not yet.
So the other, my question is, this looks like a great opportunity to have a community work party. I don't know if you're thinking about that. And if you are, go ahead.
I had not thought about the community at large. My first thinking is always, oh my gosh, which veterans organizations can help me, right? So we have an ROTC group at UW that needs to do some work, and they are just waiting for us to get ready so they can volunteer. And then I was going to reach out to the Mission Continues, and I'm part of Task Force 12, which is 12 nonprofits and the Seattle Seahawks who work together. So I'm going to reach out to them, but I will be putting out a call and a blast to get some volunteers. And I see that Janae is asking if there's a sign up. You know what, Janae? I didn't have that, but I'm creating that. Today I will get a sign up on my website and fobhope.org, and I will let you know what that is ASAP.
So the reason I asked that question is just that so many times communities are a little resistant, and it's just, even if you only had a few people in the community you're building in who could get involved, I would just recommend it. That's, I think, a flaw in the way the stability site came to be. So just a thought.
Lisa, if you have a suggestion on how I can reach the people that live in that area, could you just email me or something? Because I just don't know how to reach those people.
Let's chat after.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Fantastic. And Andrea, I see you have your hand up as well, and then we'll get to Calvin to talk about what CLR is doing on outreach.
Thank you, Rob. I'm just really quick. Monique, use your neighborhood council like us, the South End Neighborhood Council. We have our membership. We can send it out to everybody. And we
Andrea, I always
liaise at
forget. I'm
safe
so
space
sorry.
meetings. No,
Thank
it's
you.
okay. No, and most people don't even know they have a neighborhood council. So that's like our uphill battle. So yeah, no, please email.
Well, I know that we have it. You and I talk all the time. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I'm going to use you.
Yeah, please do. That's why we're here.
Okay,
And then
consider yourself used.
I also wanted to give a huge shout out. My little outreach group, the Grassroots 253 Merrymakers, received a $350 donation from Sidewalk Ministries. He had applied for a grant and has been sharing with a smaller, we're not official nonprofits, but we still need supplies too. So thank you to Rodney Richardson. And it's been cold out there, burning through those hand warmers. Thank you.
Thank you. So speaking about it being cold out there, Calvin, what has you and your team been seeing this week?
Yeah, so Rob, it's been so we've extended our hours. I have 4 case managers that are working till 6 o'clock, starting at 7 or starting at 9 o'clock. Emphasizing the warming shelters and the resources. Trying to get people out the cold. We've upped our outreach this week. In fact, the last couple of weeks. In fact, I want to say these guys are going out every day. They're going downtown, Port of Tacoma, down Tacoma, obviously Tacoma Avenue, anything heading on up towards New Tacoma, formerly known as Hilltop, 6th Avenue. We're just trying to hit every area that we possibly can and send the message that that we can get you to the warming shelters that are creating space due to the inclement weather. So we've upped our outreach. Most of our conversation has been before that. We've been having that conversation on Tuesdays and Thursdays when we have our walk-in hours from 1 to 3. So we're just really placing emphasis on getting out there, putting boots to the ground, and putting in a little bit of extra hours to see if we can kind of, get some people displaced from, these elements and into some a warm environment. So yeah, we're doing the best we can. We're gonna connect with Greater Lakes. They've been trying to get together with us. We've been trying to get together with them. And I think we're going to hopefully at some point in time bridge that gap and kind of tag team some areas, and just see what we can do collectively, individually, and keep the ball rolling.
Thanks, Calvin. Do you know, is the latest information on CLR's county resources website about the outreach sites, is that pretty accurate at this point?
Sure, especially the mobile clinics. So what I do typically, I deploy a team, take myself to scout the locations, and then I make sure I send it off to my data gal, and so she makes it public knowledge, obviously, City of Tacoma, and anybody who wants to access it. We kind of are pretty accurate, and as far as our time frame, with a 5-minute window on where we're going to be, how long we're going to be there in our next location. We like to follow up on the same location the following week, and sometimes depending on how big the encampment is and how many people we reach out to, we kind of like to hit that spot at least 2, maybe 3 weeks back to back. So yeah, we try to get that out. In fact, we get that out by Tuesday. It's updated immediately, and so feel free to follow us. If any provider here at the table wants to join us, please feel free. Willing to join us, and see what we can do collectively.
Great, thanks, Calvin. So do we have others with things that they would like to share about what they're seeing on the streets this week? I know I did see Richard on the call, although I think he's out of town. Ed, I know you've been doing direct outreach. Anything you would like to share? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Maybe you don't want me to share. It's very apparent that we have a delay in delivering services from the onset of weather or any type of disaster, because well, there's a process. You know, first it has to happen. Second, it has to be reported, and it gets reported to the city or the county. And then the county, or, well, I'll talk about county in this case, has to make a decision whether it's an emergency or not, to see if they're going to jump in and help out. Meanwhile, as happened in December, on Sunday, most of the outreach people, especially the paid outreach people, were not there on Sunday because they don't work on weekends. And Monday was a holiday. They weren't there on Monday either. And I'm not berating anyone. I'm just saying this is the case many times. And so we have volunteer outreach folks that go out and try and distribute what they have. Well, that's 2 days gone. And then if the county decides that it's going to be an emergency, and their criteria of other organizations exceeding their capacity and whatever else the decisions are within the county, then they open up, which is great. Now we have a declaration of an emergency, and their hardworking people go to work ordering materials. Now that's day 3. The materials, as we all know, may take 2 or 3 or 4 days to get there, worst case scenario. So we've gone, what, 5, 6, 7 days without materials from the county or the city being available to distribute. Now, this is the process as I've come to know it, and hate it, but you know, at the same time, this is what we're working with. I, the other day in a meeting, said, what would I like? I'd like the keys to your warehouse. There is no warehouse. So what do we do for the first 4 days of a cold, hot weather emergency while the county is making these decisions and going through the process?
Yeah, you raise a great question.
Well, and Janet, Janet and I are searching for the answer, and we think we've found it, and that is the faith community can step up and take care of these people for 3 or 4 days. The way we do that is we have the warehouse in various churches. And so we're looking for churches that will house blankets, water, hand warmers, various things. It won't cost them anything because we anticipate we will find somebody or many somebodies to donate these things. And then once we have an emergency, people within your church, faith-based organization, whoever you are, will get phone calls to come down and unlock. And then our our people that are doing the distribution within that area of the city can pick up the materials and go out and distribute it. All the while, the city and the county are making their decisions on what they're going to do. Hopefully, we can keep people alive until the county and the city have made their decisions, done their shopping and ordering, and the materials are delivered for our regular outreach people to come in and pick them up and distribute them on a larger scale. We are not looking to become an answer to homeless or a continual support to homeless folks. We're looking for the first 3-4 days of an emergency. That's what we need to cover. And if you've ever sat in a meeting or in your church, hopefully the church council or something, and said, gee, I wonder what we can do. I got it. This is what you can do. So with that being said, I have a phone number for you. My cell phone number is 206-369-0297. I'm ready to become a answering point. Yell at me, let me know what you think is possible within your sphere of influence or the sphere of influence you would like. We can help you with that. And we're looking for probably under 10, certainly, churches in the Tacoma area the Pierce County area distributed out so that, for example, if 705 falls down or I-5 falls down, we've got locations on each side of it that can serve the population on each side of it. So this is a project that Janet and I are working on, and if you'd like to say a few things, Janet, that would be wonderful. And we will be asking other folks within the coalition to help with this. This is not a sanctioned project within the coalition because we haven't voted on it. So with that, I'm going to shut up. Oh, by the way, I've been out every day. It's really hard to get people to agree to go into a shelter when they're sitting in the sunshine. Lots of blankets have gone out, lots of 18-hour hand warmers. And quite frankly, what we tell folks is take one of these blankets, put it inside your sleeping bag, put yourself in there, start the 18-hour hand warmer. It'll keep you warm and you can take a nice long nap and it'll still be keeping you warm when you wake up. So that's what we've been doing. And any questions, I'm happy. I can put that phone number in the chat if you would like.
That would be great, Ed.
Thank you.
And Sally also encouraged folks in the chat to join us at the Monday meeting of the Safe Sites for All Committee, where there will be more conversation about this, this effort. So I know we're a little over our time for the agenda, but I did know we definitely wanted to talk about the cold weather impacts this week. And for the last word on that, Garrett, is there anything you could share in terms of, I know you helped run the severe weather meeting yesterday. Do you have a sense of where we're at on shelter availability? Probably as of yesterday.
Yeah, not much has changed. in terms of shelter availability. Our non-congregate options continue to be full as they were prior to this. We, and by we, I mean shelter providers in the community, have opened additional beds, mats at our congregate sites, and those continue to have availability. So Nativity House, the Rescue Mission, Brotherhood Rise, folks have all done a good job of ensuring that there's places for people to go, but there hasn't been a lot of usage, which is pretty typical, right? So that's not, it's not uncommon for the cold weather spells like this to have little utilization of the extra bed mats. There's been, I mean, they've been used, but not stressed to capacity. So, you know, we have cold tonight. We'll continue to have extra capacity at the Rescue Mission, Nativity House, and a few other shelters. So websites, the coalition's website's up to date. I'll throw that link in.
Thank you, Garrett.
Just Sally's point, like, could the government be agile enough to be able to do our outreach work that we've been so slow to do, that Ed said? I think yes. And I think we, as a community, need to keep pushing for that role. And I think we'll get there, but it just will take, you know, we'll take a lot of energy thrown into it, I think, from inside the government and from outside. So it's new, right? This is a new idea that Pierce County Human Services has a responsibility to run inclement weather adequately, right? That's not something we did last year or the year before or the year before that. So I appreciate how we've filled in year after year after year as providers and volunteers in the community. And I think that the government's going to be able to do this so that we feel like it's adequate, but that it's just new and will take some time. So.
Yep.
So thanks for everything you're doing to keep people alive until the government agencies should be accountable to do this, are able to do all the tasks necessary.
Thanks, Garrett. So if there's additional information you want to share about what's happening on the streets this week, please do use the chat as a reminder. You know, as Rosemary said at the beginning of the meeting, we retain the chat and use that as a resource going forward. So thank you for all your sharing there as well. So let's shift to our community spotlight for today. And our community spotlight's about Harbor Hope Center. So Liam, would you like to tell us, spend a few minutes telling us about what you do?
Sure. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I've already made some really great connections attending these meetings that will ultimately better help our residents. Harbor Hope Center, we are a transitional housing program out here on the Key Peninsula in Gig Harbor. And we started initially 3 years ago to fill the gap between Tacoma and Kitsap County. We serve in our homes, we have a male home and a female home that each have space for 4 residents who are single and aged 18 to 21. And during their time here, we help them get back on track. We partner with a local alternative high school and Tacoma Community College if education is something that our residents want to focus on. You're not homeless at 18, 19 without experiencing some kind of trauma. So we work very closely with CMAR Behavioral Health, who work with our residents and also provide us with some staff training. Our houses are staffed 24 hours a day. And we do serve young people under the age of 18 through our host home program. And we are currently recruiting for host homes, if that's something we can spread the word about. We partner with, actually from this meeting, I've made the connection with ACT and REACH in order to help our residents take that next step in becoming self-sufficient and finding housing on their own. We have a really great mentor program, which we're constantly recruiting for if there's anybody out there who thinks they can really make a difference in a young person's life by walking alongside them. And our mentors help with everything from teaching our residents how to drive, taking them to open bank accounts, that kind of stuff. We partner with Crossroads Treatment Facility in Tacoma to help our residents who might be struggling with minor drug use. There is a requirement in order to move into our program that young people can pass a UA and a background check. Those two things don't rule people out from joining our program, but they are something that we consider. You know, during their time in the house, we help them with everything from getting ID to opening a bank account and finding work, you know, and everything that comes with that, writing a resume and a cover letter and job interview skills, and then kind of what's expected with the first couple of weeks of being in a job. We have a really wonderful partnership with our local Kiwanis group, who very graciously provide clothing for our residents when they first move in. Everyone is eligible for our program, and we will quite happily take referrals from anyone. So that's anybody who, just because they're not in between Tacoma or Kitsap County, doesn't rule them out either. So if you work with young people who you think are eligible for our program, please get in touch. My email address will be posted everywhere, I believe. We currently have one space in our female house, and we're working on ways to expand our capacity in order to serve more. And I think the members of the coalition can help us by, as you've all already been doing, in connecting with us and better serving our residents. I think that's it in a nutshell. Oh, here at the Boys House, we have a resident beagle. He was rescued from a medical research facility in China about a year ago. And he's going to be a licensed therapy dog eventually. His name's Henry, and he's kind of you come and knock the door, he comes and greets you.
That's awesome.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
Yeah, let me see if anybody wants to raise their hand or just kind of wave and let me know. Monique, I see you waving.
Hey, Monique, what's up?
Hey, Liam, I was taking notes and forgot what the ages were. You said, is it 18 to 21 or what was that?
For our transitional housing, it's currently 18 to 21, but we are working on a host home program for people younger than 18.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Anyone else with questions for Liam?
Could you repeat the name of your program?
Harbor Hope Center.
And I will say, if you received the agenda for today's meeting, Liam's email address is in the agenda. But Liam, I don't know if it's a good way to refer folks to you to give you a call as well. You might want to put your phone number in the chat. If you could just share that contact information, that would be great.
For sure, yeah. And then I see Tori's asking about helping out, maybe to be a mentor. Definitely give me a call and I can get that ball rolling for you, Tori.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for sharing about your program today. And we hope you can come back and make more connections here.
I hope so too. It's been amazing so far. Thank you.
Great, great. And if you have additional questions for Liam, please do use the chat and reach out to him there. So thank you. Let's shift to our next item on the agenda. And I am happy to welcome a longtime friend of the coalition and our only part-time employee we've ever had, Kevin Glackin-Coley back to talk with us today about the block project. So Kevin, you've got the floor.
Thanks, Rob. Nice to see everyone. It's good to connect with you all, even if it's still on Zoom. For those of you who don't know, I'm the director of Facing Homelessness in Seattle now, and I'm going to share a little bit about our approach to homelessness. But I wanted to start with a little video because the folks in the video are much more articulate than I, and hopefully Rob can get that playing. It's just a few minutes long.
Yeah, let me set that up.
Thanks.
And send me a chat if this is not working for some reason.
I have my own set of problems, I'm depressed, off and on in my life and different stuff like that. But I've always had a job, and I was married and had kids and had a home, and then my home was my car.
People are suffering and they don't have places to go to get support. And most importantly, I think facing homelessness is important because it creates connections with people, a sense of community that's bi-directional.
Sorry,
not
guys.
just giving out the window.
Let me restart this.
I think just the way that people connect here is just different than I've experienced in any charity work I've ever done in my life. This is an
We will try this again. Are people seeing the video there or seeing the screen there?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go back to the very beginning and see if we have better.
I have my own set of problems. I've been depressed, off and on in my life and different stuff like that. But I've always had a job, and I was married and had kids and had a home, and then my home was my car.
People are suffering and they don't have places to go to get support. And most importantly, I think facing homelessness is important because it creates connections with people, a sense of community that's bi-directional, not just giving out the window, but receiving back. I think just the way that people connect here is just different than I've experienced in any charity work I've ever done in my life. This is an organization that is just founded in that.
When I would see the stories that were shared on Facing Homelessness Facebook page and seeing the humanity in the people experiencing homelessness, I really understood the connection that we all have to people in our community and how we can impact their lives in positive ways if we just take a moment to see their situation and have some compassion.
The Block Project is an opportunity for a homeowner to host a resident who will live in a 175 square foot home on their property, and also afford someone who has experienced homelessness to reconnect with community and to build relationships.
What we do here in the shop is we build those houses, and what's really cool about how it's done now is that it's templated, and we build all the components for the houses here in the shop. We put them on a truck, we take them to the site, and we assemble them. And it's just really cool. We are making a home for someone who didn't have one before.
I try to describe all the time to friends and family how the window of kindness works. We literally open the windows of the office into this enclosed space, and we greet, folks from the community experiencing homelessness with, a warm smile first and foremost, a conversation, and then we help provide supplies, hot drinks, snacks, and if we're lucky and have a lot of donations, we'll give out tents and sleeping bags that, just really make people's days and lives better.
If I can help one person by providing them with shelter or a transitional home, then they can pay it forward in time, and exponentially that can impact the crises that we're facing with homelessness now.
I would say for anyone considering the Block Project as a host, to just say yes and be open to the relationships and the possibilities.
When I'm interacting with someone at the window, which is, brief, it can be 1 minute to 10 minutes. My goal is to make them feel like someone cares about them, to try and bring a tiny bit of special to their day. Sometimes people come up, people I know, and I could tell they've had a really bad day. So I offer to listen. I say, if you want to talk about it, I'm here and I'm interested. So I try and look at the person and try and empathize with how they're feeling and sort of match that. But my hope at the end of it all is that they left her feeling better than when they came.
What I want people to know about me is that there's still really good people in the world with really good hearts, and that I'm one. And I'm going to do something someday if I can get that far. And if not, then I'm going to inspire somebody else too.
I think perspective is probably the biggest thing that I've gained being here. Perspective, how lucky I am, how much people like me and everyone really should lean in and support people that don't have basic, needs in life, and really trying to understand people's stories. Really just not making assumptions, especially about the homeless. And that's something, I think I'll take forward in every part of my life.
I want to thank the people that have given their time and their effort and their donations or whatever it is that they've done.
I am in this because of my passion around homelessness, and that's good enough for me.
Thanks, Rob. So the thing I most wanted to focus on today is the block project, because I think it's the one place where we found in kind of our own niche of doing something that I don't think is being done anywhere else. And just a little background: our founder is an architect, and he started from his office in Fremont 10 or 11 years ago, welcoming people who were experiencing homelessness outside his office to come in and have conversation. And at heart, he's a storyteller. And so he began sharing the stories of the folks he was getting to know. And that led to a Facebook page and people responding to individual needs that he would share for an individual who maybe needed a car repair or needed deposit for rent or needed help with medication or a variety of things, and has morphed into this organization. So we do the direct service, which many of you do in your own settings and with the same kind of spirit. But the block home started with a conversation. Somebody had at one point in a point in time count, it was estimated there were 14,000 people in Seattle who were experiencing homelessness, and there's about 14,000 city blocks. And so the thought was, what if we built one home on every block? Not even I think that's possible, Teresa Power-Druidis. But that was the start of the thought. So the block home, and it's part of the continuum. A tent is better than being under the bridge. A tiny home is better than being in a tent. But housing, permanent housing, is really the long-term solution. And so our block homes, and it's a slow process. We just broke ground on our 13th block home, and by the end of this year, we hope to have 18 in place. And as Naja, who's one of our hosts, said, it's 175 or 80 square feet of permanent housing. We have homeowners who sign a ground lease with us, a 5-year ground lease, and we put in this home. But it's a permanent home. I tell people I would move into it if I was living by myself. It is small, but it has a shower and a bathroom and a kitchen area, a small kitchen area and refrigerator. There's a couch that turns into a day bed. It's got a covered porch area and storage, and it's in a backyard. So it's scattered throughout. We're building one now in Magnolia, which is not a neighborhood that gets a lot of low-income housing in Seattle, and so we do it block by block. And that's our approach, recognizing it's a small thing. It's also more expensive than a tiny home, but it's a fourth of the cost of a unit of low-income housing in Seattle, which is priced at about $300,000. So for $75,000, we can put this nice ADAU attached. I always forget what those, the attached housing unit in the backyard of somebody's home, and provide housing for someone. It can be short-term. Some of our residents stay for a while and then move on to the next thing they wanted to do. Some folks will be there. Our first resident has been in his home for 4 years, and he's in his 70s. And unless he gets to the point of needing some kind of additional healthcare services, it'll probably be where he lives for the rest of his life. We actually had a resident who passed away this year. And my first thought when I heard about it was he didn't die. He died at home, because he actually died in the home. He didn't die on a street corner. And there were people who noticed and cared that he had passed. And then two of his sisters came to visit from back east. And I was with them as we walked into the backyard so they could get to the house and see what of his stuff they wanted to bring with them as mementos. And I was in front of them, but I could both hear and feel their reaction when they walked into the backyard and saw this place where their brother had lived for the last months of his life and where he had passed away, that it wasn't a street corner. He had lived in a place, and the hosts were there, and they had developed relationships with their brother. And so it's a slow process. We're learning that it moves at the speed of the resident. I think the initial thought was it would be this great community setting, and there would be, you'd have dinner together and do all these kinds of things together. And there's another video we have, and one of the residents says, for the first 7 months, I basically just stayed inside my home, because one of the things about being on the street is you're always with people. And he just needed a space to be by himself. And even Deborah talking about, there's another video, she goes, I'm finally liking myself again, because she talked about how she had lived in her car and had been sleeping in the parking lot at casinos because they let her stay overnight, and there was a bathroom they let her use, and just kind of recovering from all of that. So that's our model, block by block. The other thing, though, that is of interest, might be of interest to you, is that we have started the idea of partnering with other entities and selling them kits. So imagine IKEA on steroids. Our shop, which is down in the Soto district of Seattle, can turn out one kit a week. There's no way we have the bandwidth to install that many houses in a year. But the houses, they come out in panels, and they can be established. Once you have the groundwork done in the area where you're doing it, they can be put up in 4 days. It used to take 4 weeks of people coming in and putting them together. But now they kind of, and I don't understand it because I'm a liberal arts major, but they get put together very quickly on site. And they can also be taken apart and then moved as a result, because they're attached through magic, I think, but some kind of mechanical reasoning. And so we're working with a group now, the NDN Collective, which is works with Native folks around the country, and we're going to be selling them a couple of kits that they're going to be putting up in South Dakota, just outside Rapid City, as part of a housing program they're doing. They started a couple winters ago. They be a tent city, but it was traditional Native teepees, and it was the first year that no one of their members died of exposure. But now they're looking to figure out a way to do this on a more permanent basis. And I think the plan is down the road, they'll get a couple from us, we'll send somebody to help them establish it, but they want to build their own shop and start doing something similar in their place. And then I think one thing we might be able to look at here is we don't have, the other thing we do is we have 2 social workers on staff, because there's a lot of trauma for folks who are exiting homelessness. And so we provide some pretty comprehensive case management. And if we were going to expand our program and do thousands of homes, we'd have to become a huge agency. But we might be able to partner with agencies that have land or have case management, and then we can come alongside and sell the kit, and then you can develop the homes. And again, it's a permanent housing complement. I think one thing that's exciting is trying to explore ways where it might be possible for the folks who are living in the homes to develop ownership, particularly if it's not in somebody's backyard but on another space, because that's the only way you're gonna, you develop the generational wealth that will allow you to keep your family from falling into the same situation. So that's our model right now. I mean, we have as again I said, we have the shop up in Seattle. People are always welcome to come up and see the process happening. It's one of our previous staff members created jigs so that basically an idiot like me can come in with a group of other idiots, and we can sit there and be shown how to build the panels and where to put the gun, the nail gun, and then it gets built and it's all flat, and then it can be moved out to the site where it's being put in. So it's a quick process. There's a place for everybody in it, and yeah, it's a home that I think any of us would want to live in long term. So that's kind of the brief spiel. Would love to talk with folks about either here, depending on your time, but also I'll throw my email in the chat. It's kevin@facinghomelessness.org about ways we might partner with each other to provide some permanent housing for people. Oh, I knew Teresa would have her hand up.
So actually, my first question was going to be, when are you moving to Pierce County? But you kind of answered that. So my
I live
other
in Pierce
question,
County, Teresa, you know that.
well, yes, I meant your program. We're not losing both of you. So my other question is, do the owners get to keep these buildings after your 5-year?
So it's an interesting question. So we've had the first 9 homes that were built would be much harder to disassemble. And so we just had from block home 3, it's a couple who were in their 80s and had just really gotten to the point where they couldn't maintain it. So after the 5, well, actually it was 4 years was up. And so we sold it to them for the value that it would have taken us to take out. And that goes back into building another home. With the newer models, our goal is ideally to move it to another site. If at the end of the ground lease, or if they're selling the house and they don't want to continue it, or for them to buy it from us so that we can then put a house in at another place.
I love that second plan because that does keep creating housing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is
and actually
always
so it turns out the older couple who they're originally from Holland, and one of their sons was going to move from Holland and live in the house, but now it turns out they're doing extended foster care for older kids, and so they're still it's still providing housing for people who wouldn't have had housing otherwise, but with a different model. Yeah, so it either can be moved to another location, or it can be purchased by them and then we fund it into another. I mean, the goal is not to create ADAUs that people then use as Airbnbs in their backyard, but
yeah.
I had a
Jenna?
question, Kevin.
Yeah.
So does the family that this property is going to be put on, do they get to like meet and greet the individual?
Great. Yeah. So the residents are referred to us by some of our partner agencies. So it's Mary's Place and the Chief Seattle Club and others in Seattle. So a person has to have a case manager with that agency and kind of have been with them for at least 6 months. We do a matching, between the resident and the host, and then also we will facilitate conversations in the neighborhood for the neighbors who might want to know, why are you building this house in your backyard and who's that coming? And so again, that's part of the value of the program, and we're trying to, like many of you, we're trying to do theory of change. And so how do you measure the impact? And our board will always say our target audience is not the folks experiencing homelessness, it's the community. That's where the change is going to happen. But how do we measure that? But block by block, we now have somebody who had been homeless living in somebody's backyard, maybe getting to know some of the neighbors, or at least being seen as just they're a neighbor. And that might begin to change people's sense when they drive past someone on the off ramp, or they see somebody sleeping in a doorway. And so, because we're not going to be able to shelter our way out of this program. We need to change kind of societal expectations and our concept of who neighbors are and how we treat them. One of the nice things I like about this is it literally transformed NIMBY into YIMBY. It's yes in my backyard. So
Great. And also one more question: do they pay rent, or is it just?
Oh, no,
completely
they don't
free?
at this point. And we've looked at whether or not we would do it on a sliding scale. And in some ways, it's probably, it's not that we could charge enough rent that it would make it worthwhile on our end. And so what we're looking at, and I'm actually meeting with someone from the Catholic Worker later today to talk about how we do this, is rather than making it mandatory, we're going to try to do some financial literacy and kind of connect folks with other people, but
Nice.
like maybe through the Seattle Credit Union to set up their own bank account and for them to determine what they want to do. So if they do have an income and, at one point they want to be able to go visit family or they want to be able to move into their own place, what do they need to do for that? But we don't charge rent because most of the folks coming to us, they couldn't pay enough rent to make it, in some ways, to make it worth our while to collect it. And
Right.
with what resources they have, we want them to be able to kind of get moving for the next step. The other thing is that the homeowners, we tie the homes into the utilities of the host. We actually have solar panels on all our homes so that they're actually a net positive in terms of energy use. The homeowners, if the homeowners can, they pay the additional utility costs, comes up, for water and sewage and stuff like that. And if they can't, we cover that for the host because we don't want that to be a barrier for someone to be able to do this. And so, we have residents we have homes in Magnolia. We also have homes down in Georgetown in the Central District. So we want anybody who has space to be able to do this without feeling like they have to burden their own resources. I mean, they're already sharing their backyard with us.
Yeah. Have you run into any issues with like HOAs and guidelines like that?
With what was the first part? With
any like HOAs that have like your housing?
No, not so far. I mean, maybe that's just because of the neighborhoods we've been in. We do have a good relationship with the city of Seattle in terms of the permitting process. It's the homes have to, have to have enough space for a setback from property lines, and if it can't be on certain kinds of slopes and all those kinds of things. But so a lot of times, for every 6 or 7 people who say they'd like to do this, about one sifts through in the end of actually being able to do it either for their own reasons or because of other issues. We also, for the most part, try to do it with resident hosts. It gets more complicated if they're renting their home. Actually, the daughter of our founder does it, but they know they're resident. And we're in conversations now with a couple of churches in Seattle about whether we might be able to build a block home or two on some of their properties. They're not, it's a little bit different than a where the host is not living at their home, because usually churches are empty at night. And so there's not that issue with other residents. And it might provide some additional safety for the campus if there's somebody there. So we're exploring those options as well. And whether they would then manage it on their own or it would be kind of underneath our block party, that's also under discussion. So.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. I love the project. I'm looking forward to expanding out of King County.
Well, and if we do it at King County, it would be more like in partnership. We could, you'd be like coming to us like you go to IKEA and you get a really big flatbed and you come out with it.
Well, you'd have to take it to Thurston County.
I like Thurston County. I go to old school pizzas anytime I'm in town. So that would be
they're great. Absolutely. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. So I have seen there are a number of questions in the chat. I see Valerie just asked one about, do homeowners need to have background checks?
Yep, good question. Homeowners do have background checks. We actually had one potential host that we had to turn down because they had a DV charge. And our residents have to do a background check too. So there are certain, and mostly it's crimes against persons that would be a stumbling block. We don't do UAs. People can it's their home, but again, it's the issue as long as it's not problematic for the neighborhood, the host, those kinds of things. I'll tell you my favorite story is one host, the resident who's in our first home. I went to visit when I first started in August, and he made sure he'd gone to the store and had blueberries and ice cream waiting for when we came to visit, because he, if you come to his house, he's going to host you. And then there were other residents who, they don't want to meet another staff member from Facing Homelessness, so I don't go, but there are folks who's like, yeah, this is my home, come on in. And my promise to him is next summer I bring raspberries and the ice cream. So
I know others might have questions, and there may be others that are in the chat that we haven't covered yet. But we do need to move on with the agenda. I just wanted to say, Kevin, it's great to have you back today, and I love this idea. So hopefully we can find a way to mobilize and take advantage of the model here.
Yeah, I'd love to, and I'd love to just kick around ideas, because that's how we'll learn what's the next step we can do too. So whether it's finding a way to partner this, or for somebody else to develop something similar, but it's you know, if you ever want to come up to Seattle and see the shop or see one of the homes, just let me know. I'd love to show it off and get to prove that you all have bodies that go beyond your necks.
Fantastic. All right, thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you and hear your voices. And I'm going to just stick around in the background here.
Perfect. So I am going to shuffle our agenda a little bit, which probably surprises no one. Why don't we shift on to the government updates? I know that Allison from the city of Tacoma is here today. So Allison, would you like to share anything for an update from the city?
Good morning, Rob, and good morning, everybody. Nice to see you, as Kevin says, at least from the neck up. Allison Griffith, I serve as the Assistant Director for Neighborhood and Community Services for the City of Tacoma, and I know that we have been somewhat lacking in our attendance just due to our staffing shortages. So I'm pleased to let you know a couple things about that today, and then I have a couple of other updates. So I did just want to close the loop with you all in terms of I-705 and A Street and the removal we performed there. We did have 33% of individuals in that location actually accept shelter. So that was 26 folks went inside as a result of our HEAL team efforts out there. I've been scrolling through, so if I'm feeling Sherry's thunder, I apologize. I haven't seen Sherry on the call today, but did want to let you all know that Lighthouse actually placed 6 individuals into housing yesterday. So that's a huge positive outcome for Lighthouse. So just want to say a big thank you to Sherry and to Vallejo and Susan if she's on the call. So thank you for that. We really appreciate those efforts. And then I'll also be putting in the chat, we actually are getting ready to advertise for a manager for our homeless engagement and alternatives liaisons, or HEAL team. So if you know somebody who has good outreach experience, good experience supervising teams, that'd be what we're looking for in that position. So I'm going to put that link in the chat. Valerie's letting me know it is open on our website. She just saw it. So thanks, Valerie, for keeping an eye out. And then next week, Linda will be here to introduce our new homelessness strategy and solutions manager to you all. So she will be coming next week. So we're getting staffed up, guys, and we will be here on a regular basis once they are on board. So appreciate your patience with us while we've been short-staffed. So thanks, Rob, for the time, and I'm happy to answer questions, or if you put them in the chat, I'll just answer from there.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Allison? I'm not seeing any hands go up. Oh, here we go, Teresa.
Just a quick one. The people that you were able to provide shelter for, how did you accommodate their belongings? Did you do something different, or I mean, what about the storage issue that we keep hearing about?
So we do provide storage for anybody who needs it, and that is at our stability site. In conjunction, CCS does a great job helping us with that. But also TRM has been great. They're search and rescue folks in terms of helping us transport individuals. So we've been working with them, Teresa, to coordinate when we do a removal to get their folks down there with the vans if folks need help moving belongings. And then we also did provide tubs to anybody who wanted them for storage over at the stability site. So
That's great. That's what I keep hearing people say they don't want to, well, in addition to not wanting to go into congregate shelters because of COVID, the thing about storing their survival gear. So if you have a way of doing that, I can let people know that it might help to make people more receptive.
yeah, we do have, so Teresa, anytime we're doing a removal, we do have an opportunity for folks to store those items, and they're usually black, yellow tubs, you know, from Home Depot. So we're happy to make those available. And if you need help connecting with those, if we're doing another removal, let me know.
Thank you, Allison. And if other folks have questions for Allison, you can drop them in the chat. And let's shift gears over to hear from Jeff Rogers at Pierce County Human Services.
We have no updates for today.
What?
Yes, I know. I strive to find things. I ask people on the team for updates. Give me something to share with the coalition, and everyone's come up silent.
Okay. Well, we're glad you're here nonetheless. And how about Valerie from Pierce County Rental Assistance?
Morning. Let me see if my camera will work. I don't look great. Don't judge me. So rental assistance is going great. Just last week, we spent $3.1 million. So it was a very busy week. So far to date, since March 2021, we've spent $99.4 million, which is about 71% of our allocation. We are waiting for a $12 million contract for ERAP 2.0, which is the state funding. And we put in a request with Treasury, but they have still not responded. So, you know, we are serving about 700, 800 households per month on average. We're getting ready to finalize some projections for when this portion of the project will be ending, and then we'll move into the more lax, more permanent program with different eligibility requirements. The portal is still closed. I am told that the contract is approved with the council and that they have approved it and it's to the exec for signature. So as soon as he signs, we will get the green light and our portal vendor will hit the button and we'll go live. So as soon as we know that happens, we will let you know our opening date. We'll put it on our website. We'll do a big social media push and let folks know. We have about 9,000 people who have registered for updates for when it opens. So I don't know if we'll get 9,000 new applicants or not, but we'll let y'all know so you can share that information as well.
Great. Thank you, Valerie.
You're welcome.
And congratulations on the ongoing good work. Let's hear from Jenny at the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Pleasure to be with you as always. Let's see some updates from us. You've probably all heard that, excuse me, that masking guidance is being relaxed. CDC came out with something this morning, and you obviously saw or heard about the governor rescinding the indoor mask mandate as of the end of March. Dr. Chen at the health department has also made a statement about this. I believe that the state DOH will probably still have a strong recommendation that masks are worn in congregate settings, but we don't know for sure. I would love to hear from folks, and I'll be asking in the specific shelter managers meetings as well, but I'd love to hear from you if you're working in a shelter or other housing space, especially congregate. I'd like to hear from you about how you feel about the lifting of the mask mandate, mask fatigue among you, your staff, your guests, what you might like to see from the state. My DOH colleagues are asking folks like me who are in communication with the homeless shelter providers to find out what people think about this. And, you know, is it worth keeping strong recommendations on the books for congregate settings? They're open to your feedback. So if you have thoughts, feelings, comments, concerns about this, please email me so I can share those thoughts with my colleagues at the state as they think through what kind of recommendations they're going to ultimately make, if they're going to carve out exceptions to the rescinding of the mask mandate for indoor settings. And you probably have my email, but I'll drop it in the chat. We are seeing COVID cases, deaths, and hospitalizations all down, which is fantastic news. We've also seen outbreaks falling across the county. One thing we are still seeing that is alarming is low vaccination rates among certain populations, like those who are on Medicaid. We also see a big difference between the number of folks who have their initial vaccine series and folks who are fully vaccinated, including being boosted. And the booster really helps with immunity. So it's important to really keep encouraging folks to get vaccinated and boosted, because as I've said before in this meeting, and as you all probably know, the unvaccinated are really just being impacted greatly in terms of deaths, hospitalizations and deaths. So I will drop our link to our vaccine clinic information in the chat. Found out this morning that our contract with Ambulance that's been doing all our shelter-based vaccine work has been extended through the end of April, which is really exciting. So I'm going to encourage them to keep working with the shelters to do ongoing COVID vaccine clinics. I'm also encouraging them to connect with our outreach teams for direct to encampment vaccine work. So the CLRs and TRMs, I'm looking at you and I'm emailing folks to try and see if we can get that going again. Always a lot of changes going on with testing. Our testing team is working really hard, but keep looking at our website for updates. One of the big changes or updates that we're excited about is an opportunity to bring on-site mobile testing to organizations through one of our contractors. So that's in the works and will probably begin in March. And we're looking at different sites based on community need. And I'll share some links in the chat in terms of getting a hold of testing kits and also how you as an organization can request testing. Let's see. Unfortunately, I won't be at the meeting next week. I had a death in the family and I will be going home to Alaska for a week to spend time with my family. So I will miss you all, but I'm working on coverage to get someone from the health department here to give a little report out from me. What questions do you have for the health department or for myself?
Looked like there was a couple dropped in the chat that you can probably respond to. And
let's see. Biggest factor, vax rates. Whoa, lots of questions. Let's see. Oh, thank you for all your condolences. I really appreciate it. Do you see questions specifically for me, Rob? I'm just looking at the chat now.
Let's see. So there was that comment about the vax rate.
Yeah.
Maybe there's not.
Okay. Yeah, it's, as folks it's tough because as we see cases drop, see hospitalizations drop and those things, we're seeing a slowdown at vaccine events as well. And but there are still, like I mentioned, a lot of pockets of folks who are not vaccinated. Unfortunately, I wish I could give a more, I'm working internally to get better data on our folks experiencing homelessness and see if we can get a better sense of vaccine rates among at least our sheltered population, because that's something we traditionally haven't really been looking at. I think there's been less illness, the outbreaks are decreasing. So those are all good signs, but we certainly need still to get folks vaccinated, especially the most vulnerable among us. I think it's good news that Ambulance will be continuing to they're working at 10 different shelter and day center sites with us and doing ongoing vaccine outreach. And so I'm hopeful, but yeah, it's something we still need to keep diligent about. Thanks everyone for your condolences. Thank you for your support of me. And I'm thrilled every week to be able to be with you. And thanks for all the work you're doing.
Thank you, Jenny. And for our last government update, I saw Ivan on the call earlier. Do you have anything from the Department of Emergency Management for us today, Ivan?
Good morning, everyone. No updates from the last time we spoke. I know we're continuing the emergency shelter calls this afternoon. Weather seems to be stabilizing for the most part this week, thank goodness. But any other major updates, I'll be sure to relay to my contacts at the coalition.
Thank you, Ivan. Yeah, thankfully it looks like we've got one more cold night and then we shift to rain and wind. So it's still going to be miserable for folks out there. All right, so let's see. We've got a few things still left on our agenda today. Briefly, I wanted to see if Garrett could join me in doing a little bit of an update about the Pierce County Council's Audit Committee. Heard an update on a assessment of the homelessness system that was done by an outside consultant. It's quite the long document, and had a lot of interesting things to share in a 2.5-hour meeting, something like that. That featured some comments from Garrett along the way. I do have some screenshots of slides that I thought might be interesting to share, but it might actually be better just for folks to go look at the presentation rather than me sharing the screenshot since we're running short on time. Do you have any highlights that you would want to share, Garrett?
So this is a process that started last summer and was supposed to be completed within a couple of months so that it could be used as we built out the comprehensive plan to end homelessness. And it was a request of the county council, like Rob said, through their audit subcommittee. And so we're going to take what's come out of it as we're working on implementation of the comprehensive plan and take the recommendations and work them into that as much as we can. I think it's a fascinating read, mostly because of the amount of research that they've done. So if you want to know why they've recommended something, they've got it all footnoted and documented where you can read more. And so that's what's going to slow me down going through. And the final report's not out yet, I don't believe. I still have an early draft. And so we really just have what Rob indicated from that presentation. I think the biggest takeaway is that they believe it's all about housing, right? To Kevin's presentation, that it's all about housing and building more housing and talking about how little housing we're building, talking about how research doesn't show a lot of the tools we're trying to use are highly effective in ending homelessness compared to making it possible for people to afford housing, right? So building housing stock, using housing vouchers, right? So some of our most expensive tools are the ones that they're really recommending. So there's a lot of detail. Some of it I'm not really sure I buy into yet. I got to spend more time with. Like, they're very suspicious of rapid rehousing because there's not a lot of current research that shows it's an awful lot better than not doing that. And that's oftentimes, as Mr. Dyke said during the presentation, Andrew, that some of the things they're not recommending because there isn't research to support it doesn't mean that it's not an appropriate intervention. It just means that the current research isn't adequate enough for them to get behind it. That was a lot, but I mean, that's kind of my takeaway. Again, it's a 77-page document. By the time it hopefully gets released to the public, it'll, probably be longer, but I'm much more interested in what other people's thoughts are because my nose has been in it a bit too much. So, Rob?
Yeah, and I see your hand up, Sally. So the other thing I would add, there were just some tidbits in there that reinforced a lot of the things that we typically hear said about homelessness. Obviously, that the tight housing market and the economic situation along the West Coast is what's contributing to the rise in homelessness. There was one data point that was dropped about a 1% rise in rent in Pierce County leads to a 1% increase in homelessness. So that was interesting. I think there was another data point that was similar that Garrett might have at the tip of his tongue.
Every $100 increase in rent. This is nationwide statistics. Every $100 increase in rent month to month results in a 9% increase in the number of people experiencing homelessness, right? So, right, and that really works, you know, against a lot of the narrative we hear in the community of like personal failure has to do with homelessness, right? Like that's a pretty raw, true statistic that's showing that linkage. And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that anyone in this group, but a lot of times we hear, you know, well, it really isn't this about mental health. And it's not to say that those aren't factors that, you know, that impact people's ability to get rehoused, right? Like this report doesn't dismiss any of the like personal characteristics that can contribute to difficulty getting rehoused and all of that, but that the core, like the predominant factor is the cost of housing.
Yeah. Sally, you have your hand up, and then Kathy.
Yeah, the thing about that report that troubled me was toward the end, they have a whole section on the indirect costs of homelessness, which they take as being costs created for county government and other systems. And I was really dismayed by that because county government helps create some of the impacts that cause people to be homeless in the first place. When you look at the arrest statistics, or you look at who gets put in jail or whatever, all of those things harm people's ability to get housing in the future. And so I tried to alert Ryan to the fact that he needed to push back on that, and he started to, but it's really critically important that we point out that sometimes the systems create their own costs by doing things that disadvantage some of the least powerful people in our community. So I'm kind of hoping that system impact gets to be part of the response to that report. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. And Kathy?
Unmute myself. Thank you. This feedback is really important for our work at the Tacoma Tenants Organizing Committee. And I was wondering, I'm sorry, I'm having technical issues and I wasn't able to type into the chat. If Garrett has a source for that statistic about a $100 increase in rent leads to a 9% increase in homelessness. You can type it into the chat and I can read it, but that really helps to inform our work because we're in the prevention business, right? We don't want people to be displaced. This last week, I'm sure many of you might have heard about folks at apartment complex over on McKinley, 20 people who got the notice for them to vacate was proper timing, but their boiler's been turned off. And they were also receiving rental increase notices. And it just seems like the new owners are participating in some unethical behavior. Oh, I see that, Garrett. Okay, the GAO, thank you. And I'm just very concerned because some of these folks are seniors and disabled, the population that we've really been talking about today, and some of them are going to need case management in the future. So if anyone has ideas about that, just go ahead and drop them in the chat. That would be outstanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. And I think that the only other observation I would make from that report is there were a couple of slides that were interesting about the size of the homelessness system and shelter system in Pierce County compared to other communities across the country. That we have an undersized system for when compared to other communities. That appears actually to be a West Coast problem as well. But yeah, I don't know if you would agree with that, Garrett, but it looked like up and down the West Coast, and probably because homelessness has been growing so much along the West Coast, along with the booming economy. But that was of interest as well. So any final questions on this?
And I think this report's interesting because of some of those context things, right? Where, you know, they would look for local data, use national data, and sort of put how we approach things in that context. And a lot of times it's a little flawed, like, you know, they're using pit counts from across the country with our pit count. But if you just sort of say, okay, well, maybe it's 25% wrong, I don't know. But it's still, I think, super interesting just in maybe how we need to shift how we think about some of these aspects of homelessness, to your point, Sally, as well, right? That, you know, the highlighting different ways to look at things and consider them outside of what we're doing. I mean, that's why we go to conferences. That's why we read articles and all that. But it's fun to have somebody have gone to conferences and read articles and looked at Pierce County and put it into their perspective.
Yeah. And Kathy, is your hand still up from before? Okay, great. So if folks have additional comments on this report, I'm sure Garrett can share it with us when it's finalized. I know there was some back and forth about some concerns about how some of, at least one slide portrayed the dollars that are the sources of funds for funding the current system. So that was going to be changed before it was finalized. But
well, can I do one more thing, Rob?
Yeah, go ahead.
They also did a little bit of some qualitative research. So they had 3 focus groups. Shout out to Alan Brown that helped set some of that up, and Fatima Lawrence and a bunch of our providers. And so there is some, I think, some new information that's worth reading as well. So it's not just this analytics, but it's also some, well, analytics of kind of trends they found in interviews with folks. And they were looking at, and this is an interesting one, we're looking at people in the community that have positive experiences with the homeless system. What are the elements that made it positive? And obviously looking at barriers as well. But it was an interesting way to ask the question, like, what's been working? What were some people that have been successful? What worked? And let's make sure that those parts are, you know, embedded within all of our programs.
So as I understand it, this the audit committee accepted the report with the change that they want made on the one slide. And this is going to go forward then to the Human Services Committee from this point. So for their review. Is that correct?
I don't think so. I think that it's made its full journey in county council. So what county council decides to do with it, I don't know. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's marching orders for us to incorporate the, you know, the recommendations, you know, or consider them at least into our implementation of the comprehensive plan. But I could be wrong on that, but that's kind of my take, is its end was in the audit committee, but maybe it goes to full council. I don't know. It's too bad I'm ignorant on this, Rob. I'll know this stuff someday.
We're all doing our best. So let's shift gears over to the next item on the agenda, and that was a quick advocacy update. And I do want to make it quick so that we can do a breakout conversation next. So what I will say is that there's a couple of things. The Tacoma City Council this week, this coming week, has a relatively short regular meeting. Just a couple of items on the agenda, so I don't, and there's nothing directly related to homelessness on the study session agenda this next week either. I'm sure that a number of us paid attention and logged into the Community Vitality and Safety Committee meeting last night. There was also no conversation during that meeting. They were focusing on appointments to committees during the meeting and did not talk about the any updates on the proposed camping ban. However, they're still on track for March 10th to hold a couple of panel discussions during that meeting regarding the camping ban. So more will be coming on that. And the timeline for that committee is to get a recommendation back to the full Tacoma City Council before the end of March. So there will be more to come on that. And then this week, this next week, the Pierce County Council's Human Services Committee on March 1st at 9:30 a.m. will have more conversation about approving the comprehensive plan to end homelessness and sending it to the full council for consideration. So I'm going to paste in the chat the links to both the committee page and the and the document that's the current version of the resolution, so that folks can use that if they want to attend the meeting on the 1st. And then very briefly, even things in Olympia are moving very quickly. Obviously, the session wraps up. Well, there's another cutoff coming on the 28th, and the session itself wraps up on March 10th. The big activities this week were that the House and Senate budgets came out on Monday. Everybody was supposed to make comments on them the following day. I saw some advocacy groups saying, how are we supposed to get through the 1,000 pages of budget documents and make informed comments the next day? So a lot of challenges around the timing that happens during a short session in particular. What I will say is that the House budget did include $78 million to support housing and homelessness frontline service workers. So that is included in the House budget, not in the Senate budget. The House budget also included $500 million for the Housing Trust Fund for rapid acquisition and supportive housing. It will remain to be seen how the sausage gets made with combining these two budgets, and there still may be opportunities to advocate around that. What I will say is I will send, once I receive an update that usually comes this afternoon from the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, I'll bump that to the full coalition list. That will list some additional opportunities for folks to advocate with the lawmakers in Olympia for the things that the Housing Alliance would like to see move forward. And as a reminder, we did adopt their legislative agenda at the end of December as a coalition, so we're continuing to support that going forward. One of the emails that I did get as an update while we've been in today's meeting let me know that tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. there will be a hearing on the extreme weather event bill. I think this is the bill that that Ed, you testified on earlier in the session. So I will bump this email over to you, Ed, if you have an interest in continuing to advocate for that. This would be funding for helping those who are homeless during extreme weather events. So it's very timely with what we've gone through this week, what we went through in December and early January as well, and with the hot weather last year. So
has it passed out of committee?
This is actually a hearing in the Ways and Means Committee. Okay. And then there's also then scheduled for the 28th at 10 a.m. to be heard in executive session in Senate Ways and Means. So it's still alive. Okay. So I'll bump that over to you. And that's it for the updates for advocacy right now. We are about 10 minutes behind on the agenda, but I still would like to spend a few minutes in a breakout conversation since we have so many folks with us still. We wanted to hold a breakout conversation around what are your thoughts about why low barrier and managed camping sites and other immediate shelter solutions are not being developed right now. We'd love to hear your thoughts about why we're not seeing the kinds of continuum of shelter options that would be more acceptable to more people who have been living through the cold outdoors over this last week. And what are your ideas to help overcome some of those barriers? So 2 parts to the conversation. What do you think is keeping us from our community from moving forward with these kinds of housing or shelter options? And what are some ideas to overcome those barriers? So let's spend 10 minutes in the breakouts. And if someone in a group could take notes for your group and paste them in the chat afterward, that would be fantastic. And away we go. Welcome back, everyone. I know that time was way too short, and this may be a topic that we want to rejoin. But I also recognize today's meeting is getting away from us. We're down to 10:50 already. So those who took notes during your breakout conversation, please drop those in the chat, and maybe that can help inform the next time we talk about this topic or something similar. We do want to, you know, there's dual purpose for these conversations. One, so that we can all just get an opportunity to talk to each other in small rooms, but also to kind of share ideas and guide future meetings. So thank you for hanging in there. So among the things we still have left in today's meeting, I don't think, Jan, did you have anything critical you wanted to say about Safe Sites for All committee?
Well, welcome one and all. I want to see everybody on Monday at noon Zoom. We talked about Safe Parking Network, and now we're talking about different approaches to issues to the unsheltered.
Yeah, and you can find that link on the pchomeless.org website for that meeting and all of the other committee meetings as well. Rosemary, was there anything we wanted to do in coalition committee updates today?
I don't think anything particular. If I can just do it now, I'm putting in the chat. Oh dear, why don't I go there? An opportunity for more information, that an announcement that came up at the steering committee. There's a event happening on March 2nd, 5:30, which will be an opportunity to listen to people from King County describe what they're doing to try to have housing solutions. So some of the conversation today would fit well with, if anyone wants to attend this and bring your voice to understanding what happening in King County may be of use to us as we try to move forward with issues in Pierce County. So that's there's opportunity for breakout as well as listening to people from King County speak, and encourage you all to consider that as a way to get more information.
Thank you, Rosemary. And that is also listed on the pchomeless.org website, that event, as well as a link to the flyer for the event is there on the website, thanks to Garrett putting that up earlier this week.
And it sounds from Stacy that the link that I put in didn't work, so I took it from the flyer. I'm not sure if I copied it wrong or.
Oh, okay. Well, the link to the event is actually on the PC Homeless page as well. So folks can just go to pchomeless.org and access the registration there, I believe. And there's a head nod from Garrett to confirm it. So that's a great segue into any kind of just general announcements that people would like to share with the larger group. Does anybody else have any announcements they would like to share with the 50 or so of us who are still in the room? Ed.
Yes, we will have a memorial for those people that have died in the last 3 months on the 20th of March, the homeless folks that have died in the last 3 months. And more information next week as to time, place, all of that information.
Okay. Yeah, and once the time and place are all set, that will also be listed on the PC Homeless website. And you're anticipating this will be an in-person event as well?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And we will probably live stream it as well.
Okay, very good. Anyone else with just some general announcements for the group?
Rob?
That message from Megan in the chat about the voter registration, maybe you could highlight that.
Yeah, I did see that. And she provided her email address, so thank you for that, Megan.
There was a nice little shout out from the county executive about the Court Resource Center and Hardiman in his blog post today. And so I put a link into that, and yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. Great. And any other general announcements? All right, not seeing any right now. I also like to carve out a little time if people would like to offer any thoughts about today's meeting, reflect on what worked well, what we need to improve or shift. And you can do that either verbally right now or in the chat. I see Patricia has her hand up.
sort of what came up in our group and something that I wanted to just speak of as being like a lived experience ambassador is that people protect what's considered, like I call it, their best friend, whether it be addiction, whether it be depression, whether it be their mental health, and they'll protect that even besides the elements in which come upon them. And how can we move them out of it's not good, bad, or indifferent, but how can we move from that best friend and that internal speech into something that protects them from like the elements and in a more healthy environment, and even to move towards treatment. So thank you for letting me share. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you, Patricia. And I'm seeing some thumbs up from folks as well who appreciate that. Any others with thoughts about today's meeting that they would like to share? Okay, so I don't know how we did it, but we've got 3 minutes left in the hour, and I really do like to leave the opportunity to end early. So thank you everyone for being here today, for those who hung in for the full 2 hours. And if you have an interest in helping us inform the next few Friday meetings, we'll have a planning group meeting right after this. Well, after a 5-minute break. To the rest of you, I hope everybody has a good, safe weekend. We'll see you all again next week.